Hey, everybody. Welcome into the Ben Maynard program. Thanks for being here. As you can see, we have a guest today, and we got a special one for you as well. But before we get started, a little housekeeping to take care of. As you know, this program is available wherever you get your podcasts, okay? It's on all the streaming platforms. Just search the Ben Maynard program. It's right there. Go with it. If you can, subscribe to it as well, because every time I publish an episode, you'll get notification on it. And you know what? Why not even try and give me a 5-star rating? That would be swell. However, if you can't resist some of this and maybe some of that right there, and you're watching on YouTube, then I greatly appreciate it. Just do me a favor. Please subscribe to the channel. Tell 10,000 of your family and friends. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. You know I love your comments. I reply to each and every one of your comments. Last but not least, follow me on Instagram. Simply Ben Maynard Program, all one word. So with that, plenty of ways to take in the show for your dancing and listening pleasure. And here we go. Like I said, this is a good one. And I'm just going to cut to the chase, get right to it, and introduce everybody to my good buddy, Tommy Sommers. Thank you very much, Tommy. And happy Saturday to you.
Same to you. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, everybody. Tommy is one of 3 most of the time, sometimes 4 co-hosts of like the biggest Kiss podcast in the world. Okay. It's absolutely the biggest. It's a great podcast. And I actually, it's called 3 Sides of the Coin. And, you probably, if you've been around, if you've been with me long enough on this program, you've heard me reference that podcast several times. I've mentioned Tommy, I've mentioned Mark, I've mentioned Michael. It's a great podcast. These guys do a fabulous job. Everybody knows them, and they're just world class. So
thank you. That's very nice of you to say.
Yeah, no. So thanks a lot, Tommy. It's so good to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me.
Of course, absolutely. You know, you and I, and of course, Michael and Mark and Lisa and Izzy from time to time as well. All absolutely just giant Kiss fans, and we have been, since we were kids.
Yeah.
And you and I, we're the same age.
Yep.
You've got a birthday. Coming up in May, as a matter of fact.
Yes, I do.
I know, big 6-0. Yeah, but this week, an album from our favorite band turned 50, and that's Dressed to Kill. This one right here. Let me see. There it is. I got it right there. Okay. Yep. Turned 50 this week. So I thought, well, why not? I was going to do a show anyway, but I thought, you know what? I'm going to text Tommy and see if he wants to come on. And yeah, so this is going to be good. I like it, So, but before we get into that, let's get a little background from you, Tommy. I don't know. I like to ask some of the artists or musicians that I have come on, like, when did you get the bug? When did music first hit you, where it just, it was a song, an album, something you heard on the radio, whatever it was, and just kind of hit you right here in your chest, and you fell in love with music, and that was it?
Goes back to my earliest childhood memories. I have older sisters and an older brother, so they had record collections. Right. And I remember literally being 5 years old, probably sitting in front of my mom and dad's Fisher console, one of those old-fashioned massive things, and listening to 2 records in particular. There was a lot, but 2 in particular, over and over and over again. That would be Sgt. Pepper's by the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, High Tides and Green Grass, the greatest hits of the Rolling Stones. Okay. Those 2, for whatever reason, stuck out to me more than everything else that was there. And we had other great stuff. I mean, we had Motown, we had classic rock, we had all these different things, because all of my siblings liked different stuff. But those were the 2 that really stuck out, and then the Kinks' greatest hits as well. Those were the three biggies.
Okay. Your story is pretty similar to mine. And I like the fact that our families had these big, huge console stereos made of real wood. It was actually a piece of furniture in the house,
Totally.
weighed about 250 pounds or so, big giant
Easily.
12-inch speakers in the cabinet and all that, just great stuff. And for me, my parents, primarily my dad, would put on Eddie Arnold or Jim Reeves or
Yep.
Nat King Cole. And so I was accustomed to hearing that. Um, but it was probably about 1972. And we had this, and I've told the story on the show. So people, if you've been here for 83 previous episodes, you can turn down the volume. But um, my mom had the 45 of the Beatles, Let It Be. And she put that 45 on the stereo, and she sat on the floor in front of a typewriter in our family room. And as it played, she was typing out the lyrics to the song. And not to say that she got it all in one play. She, obviously got to, start and stop and that kind of thing. But she pounded out the lyrics to that on goldenrod paper. And I remember I took that sheet of paper and I would play that 45 over and over and over again. And I would sing to Let It Be. And I remember that. I don't even remember the B side. I know it was a John Lennon song, and I hated it, but that's about all I remember.
I think it was, yeah, I don't even remember either.
It's something about knowing somebody's name or something like that. I can't recall, but that's kind of when it seems like it stuck,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I don't know. I know for guys like you and I, we seem to have a special relationship with music.
Yeah, and I'm not really sure why it hit some people and not others. And it's weird how it's changed, because when we were kids, the thing to do was to buy the 45s, not the LPs.
Right.
And so at first, when I started buying things for myself, I was quite young and I earned an allowance. They would take me to Target, and Target had like a huge wall of 45s, like all the latest hits, and then obviously represses of older songs and that sort of thing. And so it was interesting because you could buy Deep Purple, Smoke on the Water, and you could buy uh, the Carpenters' Superstar at the same time,
Right.
released about the same time. And you never thought twice of it as a kid, because at that point, music was different than it is now. They didn't categorize it the way they do now. And I think that also has destroyed some of the love of music, because I know too many people that they get stuck in a genre, whatever it is, and they don't go outside that genre. And I've never really understood that, because to me, that's no different than eating at the same restaurant every single day. Why wouldn't you want a variety of different types of food or experiences or music? Because it's like, if it's a good song, it's a good song. It shouldn't matter whether it's Linda Ronstadt with a Nelson Riddle orchestra or it's some death metal band out of Norway, whatever it might be. But
Right.
that's changed. Even the festival bills have changed. Now it's all metal, or it's all country, or it's all pop, or whatever it is, and you don't have that crossover anymore. So I think there's a lot of people who've lost that ability to see a song for what it is, rather than to compartmentalize it into a genre or a style.
I completely agree with you, and I've talked about it before. And when we were growing up, top 40 radio played everything. I mean, you'd have a rock
Yeah,
song, an R&B song, a country song, in the late 70s, a disco song, whatever it was. So you had everything back to back to back to back.
right.
And so we were exposed to so many different genres of music. And I think that's why I won't say my tastes are eclectic or anything like that, but I do like many different genres of music. And I mean, I love disco. I love, the new wave stuff from the early 80s or from our high school days, that kind of stuff. I mean, eh, so um, somewhere along the line, radio forgot about all that stuff and it just became so segmented,
Yeah, and I'm
and
not sure what it was that changed. Maybe
yeah.
it was the 80s or even the 70s, because then people started buying the LPs. I'm not really sure what it was that changed, but I think it really took its toll on a lot of people that love music, because they didn't know how to go outside of their comfort zone's not the right term, but they didn't know how to go outside of what they're familiar with to try something new that they might end up liking. Now, I also too grew up next door to two people, Bill Fricke on one side and Rick Carpenter on the other. Bill Fricke had three older sisters,
Yeah.
and he was my age, and so they were into like Edgar Winter and
Hmm.
Frank Zappa and Todd
Right.
Rundgren and Rick Derringer and all this. So I'm like, holy shit, I learned all about that. Then on the other side, literally on the other side of my house, was Rick's place, and his parents bought a record collection from a DJ, and so it was all LPs, and it was 50s and 60s. So
Right.
that's where I heard Eddie Cochran, Elvis Presley, all the Motown stuff, all of this, the quirky, goofy, stupid 60s songs, just like they had in the 70s. So I had music all around me from all different types of genres. And I feel like I was blessed that I had more of a rounded musical upbringing. And the perfect way to say this would be to some of you that are actually listening that are Kiss fans. When the solo albums came out, I didn't have any preconceived notion about what they would or wouldn't be. And the Peter Criss solo record takes a huge beating from a lot of Kiss fans because it's not whatever it is. I love that record. And I love that record because of all of my other influences. It's a great record. It's just not what you would expect probably him to do, but it doesn't mean that it's bad. And there's so many Kiss fans that just can't stand that album because they probably never listened to, I'm assuming, a variety of different types of music. I don't know.
Right. And you know what, to that, first off, when the solo albums came out, we knew Kiss for what they were. There wasn't, we only knew what we read about them in Hit Parade or Circus or Cream or 16 or whatever, magazines that they were in. And we didn't realize the different musical backgrounds of each member of Kiss. Nobody realized that Peter Criss came from a big band swing background, and that's what he grew up in, and that's what he actually, those are the type of bands that he played in before Kiss. And so when you hear that when you first put the needle on Peter's album, you're like, what is this? I mean, this isn't anything off of Love Gun or Hotter Than Hell or anything like that. So you're shocked and you don't know what to think. But for for us music geeks, as time has gone on, we get it, we understand it, and we not just accept it, but we take it in and look at it a lot differently and realize, okay, this is where Peter was coming from, and that was what he was expressing at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just never gave it any thought. I just was
Yeah.
excited that I was getting four Kiss records. And the only one I didn't like was Jeans, because it was just too, I don't know, it was just shitty. I don't know how else to say it. It, and it wasn't, again, I wasn't that I was expecting anything from him, but
Right. Right.
you have a tendency, I think we all do, to gravitate towards the songs that you love for whatever reason, whatever they are. And
Yeah.
I just felt like so much of the stuff that was on that solo album, like When You Wish Upon a Star, and then when he redid See You in Your Dreams, which is just fine on Rock and Roll Over. It just,
Yeah.
and Man of a Thousand, it's like, it's just, I don't know. I wanted the whole record to be like radioactive.
Right, right.
I
Yes,
mean,
I hear you there. Um, I don't have as much a problem with Gene's solo album as a lot of other people, but to what you said, where Peter's just kind of go, it's like the other three, Ace, Paul, Peter. Whatever the sound of that record is, it's pretty much consistent from the beginning to the
yep.
end. Where Gene's is like this.
Yes,
And
and there was just too much stuff on there that I just don't appreciate.
yeah. Like even the solo album he released, what was it, 2004 or 5, whatever it was, Asshole.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. It does this. It's got some good stuff on it, but it's just, man, it's just up and down all the way through.
And I liked his stuff in Kiss. I love a lot of the songs that he writes. I mean, he is an amazing songwriter, and that's why I think I was even more confused
Right.
by the
Right.
whole thing. And it just to me, and that's kind of the point, at least from my perspective, is if the song is good, I like it. I don't care who it is. I don't care what it is. Either I like it or I don't. And that's no different than liking pizza. Some people like thin crust. Some people like deep dish. Neither is right or wrong. It's just what you like. I just think that the minute that you stop trying to find new music, you're cheating yourself because there's so much great music coming out right now. You just have to look for it and make an effort.
You know, and I was going to get into this too, where, like I said, we're both music nerds, but
Mhm.
for me, I I would say my musical, I don't know what I don't want to say taste or anything, but the stuff that I really dive into, I would say mine is like so. Okay. Yours, you have a lot more breadth to what you enjoy over what I enjoy. And I just know that from one, talking to you, and two, um, seeing everything that you post on your Facebook page about the different bands that you go see, and listening to the podcast as well. So yeah, you've got a lot more breadth than I do. But I know that when I dig into something, when I like something, I really dive into it, and I
Right.
want to know just about anything and everything there is to know about it.
Well, and I'm
So,
always being accused of not even being a Kiss fan. There are people who, no, seriously, we get hate mail that like, why is that asshole on the show? He's not even a Kiss fan. Because it's like I look at things differently, and I'll give you a great example. There
yeah,
are all these people who are so excited about Off the Soundboard.
right.
Fine. Look, if you would have told me 50 years later, because I've been a fan for almost 50 years now, because Dress to Kill
Mhm.
is my first record.
Oh,
Um,
okay, good. We're gonna, yeah, all
yeah,
right.
uh, I it's I don't even know how to explain it. It's you just get used to different things by trying different things.
Yeah.
And I don't think that I have to be a heavy metal fan to be a Kiss fan. And I don't think it's wrong for me to like Billie Holiday. I can still be a Kiss fan, but
Of
that's
course.
the problem with some of the fans. And I'm sure that Zeppelin has it and all these other bands do too. They almost feel like you're being disloyal if you don't love everything the band does, which is ridiculous because even
Right.
the band doesn't like everything that it
We
produces.
know that.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you have to pigeonhole yourself like that because there's so much great, like I said, I'm going to keep saying it. There's so much great music on there and there's so many wonderful bands.
Well, I think, going, we'll steer the ship back a little bit. When we were kids and we first became Kiss fans, you know, Kiss, there it wasn't any Kiss album wasn't my first album that I bought, and we're going to get into that. I'm going to ask you that in a minute, but they did become my first favorite band of all
Yeah.
time. I mean, it was like anything and everything Kiss, and we, I kind of held other bands at bay because it was like you brought it up. I don't want to be like disloyal to my fandom of Kiss, so everybody else was a threat to that. Until probably until I got into Kiss, a couple of years, probably a couple of years passed, and then I was able to get into Aerosmith, and it was probably I wouldn't say Van Halen. But maybe a little bit of Van Halen. I was never huge on Led Zeppelin. And
nor was I. But I have several of their records and I like them. I mean, my brother introduced me to them. It's kind of funny. I remember the maturation process of my musical interest or
yeah,
taste. It started with the Kinks. You Really Got Me, thinking that was the heaviest thing I'd ever heard in my life, going, holy shit.
yeah,
Then I hear Helter Skelter by the Beatles. I'm like, oh my God, okay. And then Zeppelin 4 comes
crazy
out.
heavy song.
Yes, and then Zeppelin 4 comes out. My brother brings it home. I remember it was 1971, and he
Yeah,
puts on Black Dog, and my mind was blown.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I don't think it was disloyal. I think what it was, because there was a period of time that's almost all I listened to, and I think it's because you're wrapped up in the whole thing. It goes beyond the music. That's the piece a lot of people don't understand. Is there something special about that band that's different unto itself? That if you get it, you get it, and if you don't, you don't. But having said that, I do also believe that it takes something so remarkable to crack the veneer for you when you're a kid.
Yeah.
And so what cracked the veneer for me was Eruption. When we were
Okay.
out in the front yard playing ball and someone brought over the first Van Halen album and just come out, and they put on, and I heard You Really Got Me. But Eruption, we were all we stopped what we were doing and went and stood over this, boombox going, what are we, yeah.
What in the world is that? Yeah.
But I mean, I would say during the time period, though, even when I was in the deepest throes of my fandom for Kiss, I still was listening to other stuff because they weren't my first band. My first favorite band was the Beatles. I would say the Beatles, the Rolling
Yeah.
Stones, the Monkees, and Elton John. Those four, I think, have more to do with my musical history and love of music than any other four acts I can think of.
And those bands there that you just mentioned are for a lot of the bands that we like that came after that, they're the foundation. They're the reason why those guys picked up guitars
Right.
and started writing songs and playing instruments, because of the Beatles, the Stones, the Who, the Kinks. It was all those British bands that came over in the 60s.
Yeah.
So
And I also don't fault any band for actually selling records and making money. I think that whole idea of a sellout is stupid. Like if you look at the newest LA Guns record, Leopard Skin, which hasn't come out yet, it'll be out in a couple of weeks, but I just did a review for the
yes.
album.
Yeah.
Holy shit, is it good? There's not one throwaway track on there, and it just oozes the kind of songs I love. And it's nothing like, for those of you that are listening that are 80s hair metal fans, it doesn't sound anything like 1980s gun, LA Guns. It sounds like where they should be right now. They've moved forward, but they're still able to write this really great rock record. And I feel bad for them because I think it's not going to do well. And I think the reason it's not going to do well, and I don't want to predict the demise, is that people aren't going to give it a chance simply because it's LA Guns. They make an assumption about something based on, a preconceived notion from the past. And if you're a straightforward rock and roll fan, this is a great record. Go out and buy it. I would say the same thing to you about Buck Cherry. And I could go on and on and on about all these
I know
bands.
you could.
Yeah,
No, LA Guns, the sad part is, and to what you said about the album selling or not, yeah, it's probably not going to sell because nobody buys music anymore. Nobody buys it in the physical form anyway.
right.
I mean, you will, I will. There's a few people out there, but not enough to sustain anything. But at least, the bands that we like, And LA Guns is one of them, especially since Phil and Tracy have come back together. They've been very prolific, and
Yeah.
every couple years they're putting out new music, and it's so good.
And the tragic part for me is that I'm going to go and see them inevitably sometime this year because I think they're touring with Tom Kiefer, who's another
Yep,
one I absolutely love. And
absolutely.
they'll maybe play one song off this record, and I personally would love to see them play the whole damn thing. It's
Right.
literally that good.
Now, that's how I feel about Missing Piece. That thing to me, front to back,
Yeah,
is dynamite.
yeah,
And they play Speed, and maybe, and they, that's about it. But they've got to go and play all the early catalog stuff, and just like so many of our other favorite bands. Like I said, music geeks. We love the bands that we love, and we dive deep into them, and we don't necessarily care for the hits. We want to hear all the deep tracks. We want to hear the stuff that never gets played.
right. And unfortunately, that's not the world we live in because so many of these bands are now playing festivals or they're
Yeah.
playing multiple bill types of shows where they have to play the most familiar stuff or the crowd will just leave. I
Yeah.
had a long conversation with Tommy Thayer about this. We were talking about different Kiss songs and why he can't get them to play these different things. And he's like, "Well, we've tried some things." And I mentioned a couple songs. I can't even tell you what they were at this point. We are just talking about it backstage. And he's like, "We tried X." And he said, it's just like the audience's eyes glazed over. And it just doesn't work because if you go to a Kiss show and there's, I don't know, 18,000 people there, of that 18,000 people, at least 50% of them have never seen the band before. They're
Yeah.
going because they've heard it's a spectacle. And then I would say of that remaining 50%, 40% are casual fans. And if this wasn't true, then the uh, the tribute bands wouldn't complain the way they do about the set list because they want to go deeper. And that's what I would want to see in a tribute act. I mean, there's a lot of reasons why Kiss does and doesn't do it. And I've given up trying to make the argument about the set list. But the point is, they're playing the most familiar songs they have to appease the broadest audience they possibly can that happens to be in front of them that night. And that's actually what their job is. Now, if we are the type of people where we go and see multiple shows, that's on us. That's not on the band.
Yeah.
And not everybody can be Bruce Springsteen. And let's face it, Bruce Springsteen has a 70s light show. He puts on an amazing 3-hour performance, okay? But there's no pyro, there's no special lighting, there's no effects, there's no nothing. And
Yeah.
so with no choreography, you can pretty much do whatever the hell you want to do.
Well, not only that, Bruce will play a 3-hour show, but he's probably only fitting in about 12 songs because he talks for an hour and a half.
There's that too.
Yeah. So,
Absolutely.
I mean, so
Yeah, and so you just need to kind of, I think, set your expectations. So like if that's why when people say, well, give me, some of your top 5 Kiss shows you've ever seen. One that's in the top 5 for me was at Chuck Brennan's pawn shop in South Dakota. He had opened this. It's no longer there now, but it was a pawn shop that was a studio / entertainment complex.
yeah.
Stage, huge screen behind it. And what they did is everything that they had in the pawn shop was on rollers.
Oh, yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and they would just roll everything out of the way. Well, this was a Kiss show. It was acoustic, and it was for a
Yeah.
charity. And that's the first time in many years I remember standing there just like in awe because I didn't know what was coming next.
But that's the way they would always do their acoustic sets.
Which
I mean,
so there's your opportunity if you're a Kiss fan, if you want to
yeah,
see. But you know what? When they did the tour, the
the
convention
convention
tour,
tour.
there's some assholes sitting in front of me yelling, "I love it loud." And it's just like, you dumb son of a bitch. Really? This is an acoustic show. You
Yeah.
think that he'd
Yeah.
be like, okay, what songs haven't I heard, or what
Yeah.
songs would they do that could be cool acoustic? Well, for those of you that are not Kiss fans, I Love It Loud is not an acoustic song in any way, shape, or form.
No, no, no.
So, you're also dealing with that, you know.
I tell you what, one of the best set lists I've ever heard was Kiss Unplugged, the MTV
There you go. But
show,
unplugged again.
but the whole thing, not the edited version, the
Yeah, the
whole
whole thing.
thing.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
You know, yeah,
Absolutely.
that was probably one of the best set lists that I've heard. But that's because I want to hear stuff that they don't play, and that's what they did that night. And look, the one show that you and I were at was the Vegas residency back in 2014.
Yeah.
And you know, I think, did they play Creatures of the Night that show? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. And they also played Tears Are Falling,
Yeah.
but they played those two songs. And guys like you and I and Michael, who was there as well, we're going to stand on our chairs, or we're going to be pumping our fists. And, you know, about 80%, 90% of those people are going to just be like standing there with their arms folded. Hey, I want to hear Detroit Rock City. Come on, hurry up.
Yeah. The ultimate example for me of a band that destroyed itself was Aerosmith. Because when I'm at an Aerosmith show, and they're playing Kings and Queens or Seasons of Wither, and my friend and I were like, oh, and everyone in the crowd behind us is just like, what's this? And then they do I Don't Want to Lose a Thing, and these people go crazy, and I'm like, okay, where's the gun so I can shoot myself in the fucking
Yeah, exactly.
because Aerosmith died in the early 80s. And I'm not taking away their success. I'm not saying it's wrong that they did what they did, but it's just not even a band I recognize anymore. At least with Kiss, I totally know who they are. Same with Cheap Trick. I mean, I would say Cheap Trick and Blackberry Smoke are two of the best bands to see live where you won't know what they're going to play.
That's it. You're right. That's the thing about Cheap Trick. Cheap Trick, they don't look, they can play any song in their catalog at the drop of a hat. They don't even rehearse.
I know, they can. That blows my mind.
Yeah, they just, okay, and they'll change their set list every single night.
Mm-hmm. I want to say, Dax Nielsen, the drummer, who's Rick's son, he saved that band. When he joined that band, he saved them.
He changed them up a little bit.
Well, no, he saved them from death because Bunny Carlos is such a miserable curmudgeon.
And he didn't want you're right. He didn't want to play all this other stuff. He wanted to play the same, 12, 15 songs every night.
Yeah.
But what's weird, and yeah, I know people dressed to kill. We're going to get to it. But, with Cheap Trick fans, they come to expect that, and they have no issue with it all. I mean, look forward to it.
Yeah. Yeah. Except a couple of songs, because it's kind of become a running joke for me that every time I see them, I'm like, Play Up the Creek, which is my favorite Cheap Trick song. And most people hate it. And the band hates it. So I'll be standing on the side of the stage and Dax is playing drums and I'll be like, and they just look at me like, oh God, really again? So yeah, it's just, again, it goes back to what your tastes are.
Yeah. Well, look, okay, I know we got way off topic, but like I said, we're two guys talking music because we love music so much.
Yeah,
and now we could spend the rest of the morning here in the afternoon where you are talking about everything except Kiss. But because we're supposed to be celebrating Kiss and Dress to Kill turning 50, then that's exactly what we're gonna do. So, all right, so let's kind of get back into it. So March 19th, what was that? Was that Wednesday? I think that was Wednesday. Yeah. That was the 50th anniversary of the release of Kiss's third studio album, Dress to Kill.
Yep.
And you already mentioned it. You said that was your first Kiss album that you bought.
Yes.
For me, mine um, was Kiss Alive, and that's how I got introduced to Kiss was
Yes.
Kiss Alive, and so then I had to kind of, I think I went forward before I went back. But
And
what
that's
was
okay. I
your?
mean, all of our journeys are different, you know.
Oh yeah, of course. And when did you pick that album up?
That would be, I want to guess, spring or probably late spring of 75.
Okay, so you did get it on the initial release then.
Yeah, but it wasn't like on the release date. I was too
Yeah.
young to understand any of
Yeah,
that.
yeah, of course.
I actually remember the day like it was yesterday. It was at Target, and my brother took me there because I wanted to buy a record. My dad gave me some money to buy an album because they knew how much I was into music, and I would go
Yeah.
to shop every single week. And I was looking for a Monkees album called Refocus,
Mhm.
and it has a cool cover. It's like an old camera with them in the lens, and it's nothing more than a greatest hits record. That's all it is. It's, if you look at it, it's really actually quite disappointing. Nothing like, a Barrel Full of Monkeys or some of these really cool compilations they have. And I was looking for that record in specifically because I had seen it in a different store and I wanted it because I was like into the Monkeys, and they didn't have it. And so my brother's like, well, why don't you try something different, pick something else out, you know, much to his dismay. I'm
Yeah.
like filing through and I see Dress to Kill. I'm like, oh, this looks cool. And he's like, no, dude, he's like, you don't want that. I remember the conversation. He's like, why would you? That's because he's into Bob Dylan and so
Yeah.
he even tried to mess with me when I was younger. When we would have Christmas, I would ask for a Kiss record or something, and he'd give me Fleetwood Mac. And and I
Nice,
love
brother.
Fleetwood Mac, but I'm just like, really, come on, man, you know. And so that's how I ended up with it, and I took it home, and I was just mesmerized. But also, too, it was still so young that I didn't. The thought hadn't occurred to me that they have other records because I remember being really young and listening to Sergeant Pepper, like I told you, and then I went over to my sister's house, and she was living with her roommate Mary, and Mary was a big Beatles fan. And I remember literally, I remember to this day, I couldn't have been more than 7 years old, maybe 8, sitting in their room or in their living room at their apartment, thumbing through these records, and I pulled out Rubber Soul. And I think it's
Yeah.
because it was such a weird cover. I'm like,
Right, right.
what's this? I had no concept that there were other Beatles albums. I didn't know, when you're a kid, but you know.
Yeah.
So
No, exactly. So you were just uh you took to Dress to Kill like right away.
yeah. Oh God, yeah. Because I sat there and just I was mesmerized by the look. I was
Yeah.
just like, this is unbelievable. And it's the same kind of thing that Joe Elliott told me. We were talking about Kiss, and Joe Elliott from Def Leppard, and he said that he remembers walking down the street in his hometown, and he had never heard of them before. And there was this massive display for Destroyer in the window.
Mm,
And I remember him saying to me, he's like, I looked at that and thought, if this sounds anything near as cool as it looks, I'm going to love this record. And it turned out that that was exactly the case for him. It was the
yeah.
same thing with Dress to Kill, and I probably put away a Bowie record. I probably put away a Rick Derringer album and several different things that I just wasn't quite sold on. And I saw this cover. I'm like, oh, this is cool. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
really where the journey started.
I think that's how, I mean, come on, we're kids. We're kids. We
Yeah.
don't know any better. And
No.
and information didn't come as it wasn't readily available like it is now, and like it has been the last 40 years. But you thumb through the records at the record store and the cover looks cool and you're like, this has to be cool, and you buy it.
Well,
And
yeah, and to give you an idea of how isolated things were then, I mean, back then we didn't have cable TV. Obviously, there was no internet. We had 3 channels and a
yeah,
bunch of radio stations. So
yeah,
when I bought that record, that was, or when I got that record, I didn't buy another Kiss record for probably 9, 10 months because I didn't realize there were any others. And I
okay,
remember riding around in the car with my brother, and he had KQ on, which is a local rock station here, and they played the live version of Rock and Roll All Night, and I was confused because I'm like, well, wait a minute, I know that song,
but it sounds different.
but it sounds totally different, and I couldn't,
There's a guitar
couldn't
solo in it.
yeah, I couldn't grasp the concept.
Yeah, yeah.
And I don't know how I figured it out, but then sooner or later, someone at school or a friend or whatever, they're like, "Oh yeah, that's they have a live record," and then I bought that, and then it seems like after I got a live, then from that point forward, I realized that there were other records and that these bands put new music out. But it just, even though it's like I was buying 45s, I didn't realize there was new music because I think up until that point, I was kind of somewhat living in the past because I'm listening to Elvis and the Beatles and the Rolling Stones, and the Beatles broke up in 1970. Here I am in 4th grade in 74, 75 going, well, okay, but they don't put more records out. But the whole thing was really confusing.
Yeah. It's because we're just kids.
Yeah.
But now for me, I think if memory serves me correctly, I think the next Kiss album I bought, I think it was Love Gun. And I got that right on release. Maybe
Yeah.
not the day, but right
Yeah.
around that. Because I remember just wearing that cassette out that whole summer. But after that, when I had gone back in the catalog, because now it's like, okay, Kiss has these other records. I think I already had Destroyer as well too. But then I went and I picked up the debut album.
Hmm.
I put the needle on that thing and I was like, what's wrong with the stereo? What's wrong with the record? Because, you hear these songs on Kiss Alive and there's so much more energy to
Yep.
them. And like I said, we're kids at the time, so we don't understand production and what sounds good, what sounds crappy. I just know it's different. I'm like, wow, I don't like this stuff at all.
Right.
And,
I was the
and
same way, and
yeah,
except what's weird about it, I think, is that their recordings failed miserably over the test of time compared to, say, like, to me, I just did this thing with Hairball where I asked all of the members, what to you in your opinion is a perfect album, and my answer to that question would be Elton John Goodbye Yellow Brick Road.
okay,
It's, to me, it's a masterpiece on many levels. And so when you look and you listen to 1973 Goodbye Yellow Brick Road, and then you listen to Hotter Than Hell from 74, it's like, were these even recorded in the same decade?
that exactly. and
Because they're so
and that was
shitty.
Well, and look, there was a kid that lived down the street. He was like a year older than me, and he had an older brother who had turned him on to Led Zeppelin. So this is why I hated Led Zeppelin for so long, because he was like, "Oh, Zeppelin's the best. Kiss sucks. Kiss was
Yeah.
a kiddie band. Blah blah blah. This kind of
Mhm.
crap."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Hey, shut up. That's my band." And come on, I'm sure you were just like me. We're almost getting fights over this kind of
Oh yeah,
stuff, and
constantly.
and but you would listen to those Zeppelin records and they just sounded so different than anything that Kiss was putting out production wise.
Yeah.
And Eddie Kramer had a lot to do with that too, but he wasn't doing this. He didn't deliver the same thing for Kiss. And I don't understand the ins and outs and all that still to this day, but
Well, the first 3 records he had nothing to do with. He did the
exactly.
demos. So
Yeah.
they were hiring on the cheap. So the first 2 records were Katie Kerner and Richie Wise, and I'm
Yeah.
convinced they didn't know what the hell they were doing.
I don't think so either.
The third record, Dressed to Kill, that was Neil Bogart. Neil Bogart is the owner or the president of Casablanca Records. He produced the record because they were losing so much money that he decided to produce the record. And I would say of the first three, Dressed to Kill actually sounds the best of the three.
I agree.
You
I
know,
agree.
But that's why they did it. And here's the funny thing for all of you people that don't know this. Kiss is responsible for disco.
Oh, come on, Tommy. Oh, yes.
Yes, they
Yes,
are.
I was hoping we were going to get into that.
Yeah,
They
because
certainly
it's
are.
true. Think about it. Because Alive was so successful,
Yep.
Casablanca was on the verge of collapse, literally, because Neil Bogart was a brilliant, brilliant guy, but he would, and this came from his wife and his son, he'd spend $2 to make one.
Yeah.
And Neil was a big picture guy. So when Alive hit and started, multiple platinum, boom, 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 all that money he took and he invested into Donna Summer, Parliament, and a lot of the other disco. I don't consider Parliament, but my point is he pushed things out so that people could hear different stuff. He that funded Donna Summer and so much of that to come. So if any of you out there are listening that hate disco, blame Paul and Gene.
Kiss bankrolled disco.
Yes, they did.
They did.
They did.
But this is how geeky we are.
Yeah.
There's look, if 1,000 people watch this episode, oh my God, it'd be the greatest thing since sliced bread. But 998 of them don't even know that.
Right. Right.
How crazy is that? So don't hate on Kiss so much if you love disco. Don't hate on Kiss because thanks to Kiss, you got Donna Summer and you got the Village People, and and you got, like you said, you got Parliament and Funkadelic because of it. Though they weren't disco, but you got them.
Right.
And
but they definitely had a groove that wasn't heavy metal.
Yeah.
And it's like that's the thing that's so interesting to me, is because when you learn about it, music is just intertwined like this. There's so many different facets of it. And the funny thing is that, by admission, all of the guys in Kiss would probably tell you that they're huge Led Zeppelin fans. And I've never understood why you can't like both. But if I listen to the music, again, it goes back to the pizza argument. The songs that have held the test of time for me are more so in the Kiss catalog than they ever would be in the Led Zeppelin catalog. And it doesn't mean that Led Zeppelin isn't a great band and that people shouldn't love them the way that they do. It's just, it doesn't hit me the way the other stuff does.
Because that was at the beginning stages of our love for music, and we latched on to Kiss. Maybe it was the visual thing at first that caught our attention. It's like when you see a red car driving down the street, it doesn't matter what kind of car it is, you see red and you look. Yeah. And I think that's the effect that Kiss had on us as kids and a lot of other people as well.
Yeah.
And so it holds so much more of a special place in our hearts because of that. And I don't know where I was going with it. Oh, but to getting back to Led Zeppelin, yeah, the look, when it I think that the music magazines, Hit Parader, Cream, Circus, I think that they are the ones that really kind of created this Kiss versus Led Zeppelin thing. I really think it was them, because I remember seeing stuff in the papers and they're always trying to compare the two bands, compare Paul Stanley to Robert Plant, and always comparing Peter Criss to John Bonham, who's the better drummer and this and that. And it was kind of silly. But then you get to the 80s and you get to the Animalize Asylum time of the band, and Gene's playing Moby Dick. He's doing a Moby Dick solo. Paul's writing songs that are Zeppelin-esque on Asylum.
Yep.
And they're showing more of the influence that Zeppelin had on them.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm sure that that's just how things change over time. I just never understood the hatred by some of the kids in my school for liking something that I
Yeah.
liked. And we all took crap like that. And I
Oh
was never
gosh.
interested in an argument because I liked Led Zeppelin as well. But at the end of the day, like I said, it comes down to the songs and what hits you and what doesn't. And I think I would be remiss if I don't mention this as well. For those of you that are Kiss fans that are interested in hearing a different version of things, there's a guy, just look him up on YouTube, Frankenstein.
Are,
Okay.
are you looking at my notes, Tommy?
No, no. Well, and it was funny because he redid it. And Ken is I can't even explain Ken.
Yeah.
Super nice guy, but he has this ability to mix songs. So I'll give you an example, and I'm probably going to get this wrong, and you should probably have him on your podcast to talk about this stuff because it's fascinating.
All you got to do is get me a contact
That's no
and I'll
problem.
try.
Yeah, I'm sure he'd love to come on. That's not a
All right.
problem. So
Cool.
he took "Come On and Love Me," which is a single off of "Dress to Kill," and he just redid it. And he redid the video as well because there was a promo video for it in '75. And what he did is he takes actual drumming parts from Peter Criss off of like live versions of these songs, and then he isolates the drum track and mixes it in to the song, and he does it with actually all four members. So it's all of them actually playing all of their parts from probably 5 or 6 different versions of that song,
Yeah.
and he redoes the actual song that's the record version. And I told him, I said to him the other night, I'm like, all these people are all excited about these off the soundboards and all, and which is great. I'm all for it. Look, they're still releasing music 50 years into their career. This is amazing that they're doing this, whether it's a live soundboard or not, whatever it might be. Those
Yeah.
don't interest me as much, but this stuff is like, oh,
I watched that "Come On and Love Me" video. Now, the only thing, and maybe I was missing something, but the only things that I could tell that were different, obviously there were the drum fills, and then at the back end of the song, uh, where they Paul keeps saying, "Come on, come
yeah,
on,"
yeah.
I don't know if that's all that was added to it, but that's what I picked up at least right away.
I listened to it several times. I was so immersed in it the other night, and I can't speak to the video yet because I hadn't watched it in many years. But what I also picked up on that was all the stuff you mentioned, plus the guitar sound, and then the bass was brought up a lot. So Gene's bass was considerably more predominant, which made the song thicker. Now he did it to the whole "Hotter Than Hell" album.
Right.
And I hate the "Hotter Than Hell" album, the way it sounds, but I love the songs. To your point earlier about how you're saying, why does it sound so great and bombastic and open on a live? And then you go back and listen to the studio and you're like, well, these don't even sound like the same song. So he started and he's been working on a bunch of stuff, but he did the whole "Hotter Than Hell" record. If you haven't heard it, I highly recommend you go.
I need to listen to that. I
It's
haven't heard
un,
that.
it's literally night and day. I like his version so much that I listen to it on a regular basis.
Okay, yeah, because I mean, I love the songs on "Hotter Than Hell." I think
Yeah,
I think that "Hotter Than Hell" is every bit as good as the debut album,
yeah,
but it just it kind of just plods along. It's like walking through mud,
yes.
and
Because
the songs
however
are
they mic,
heavier, which is cool, but it's just ugh.
well,
So
imagine if they would have mic'd Peter Chris's drums the way they would mic John Bonham. That record would sound completely different.
yeah, yeah, you brought it up with the "Come On and Love Me" video, where Gene's bass is up in the mix. That's the thing with "Dress to Kill" that I wanted to talk about a little bit. Yeah, Neil Bogart was he's credited as a producer, although if you talk to Gene and Paul, they say they pretty much produced it, and Neil was that kind of there just saying, yeah, okay, that sounds good. But
Could be.
but and so who knows? but the production, it sounds good, but the bass is so buried in the mix on every single song, every track. You can't, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm like doing this and I still can't hear the bass.
But see, that's why I think that he had a bigger role in it than Kiss is letting on, because if you look at the stuff that Neil Bogart likes, he loves bubblegum pop. And
Yeah.
so how do you make something sound more radio friendly and more bubblegummy? You take the bass out of it so it doesn't have a big low end to it,
You
and it
make it
sounds
lighter.
more like the Archies. Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah. Yeah. You got a good point there.
Because he
And
was looking
even
for a hit at that point.
yeah. And even Peter's drums are, I mean, well, except for
Yeah.
you really hear the drums midway through the song when he gets into that tribal beat.
Yep.
And I love that part of the song, but aside from that, Peter's drums sound yeah, they don't sound anything like John Bonham's. They just sound really kind of weak. Almost
Yeah,
like
I
he
always
did
thought he was a
cardboard
really good.
boxes or something.
Well, and that's the other thing I think a lot of people don't know, or maybe aren't aware of, is the fact that Peter was he was raised in a different generation, so he has a different style or technique to his drumming that made me feel that Kiss was not heavy metal.
Right.
Or at least they weren't at the time. They were more just of a hard rock band. Now, he wasn't as heavy of a hitter as John Bonham, and I'm certainly not a drummer, so I'm the wrong person to have this discussion. But
Maybe we need to talk to Mark.
yeah, you got to talk to Mark. He'll be able
Yeah.
to bore you to death with all that.
Yeah.
And but there, I think he doesn't get the credit that he deserves sometimes simply because of the way the records were mixed.
I completely agree with you on that. And as kids, we didn't get it too. So you know, the drum solo of all drum solos, the end all be all is 100,000 years. Come on.
Yeah,
Okay. And Peter's always said he came from the big band swing background. His influences are Gene Krupa, Buddy Rich, and I was listening to 100,000 Years. I never really picked up on it, but I'm listening to 100,000 Years recently, and it starts to get into the drum solo, and I start listening to it, and I'm going, that is so swing. That it just, I finally got it, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I could see Buddy Rich sitting behind a kit playing what Peter is playing.
well, and if you want to draw a parallel, then take a look at Jerry Nolan from the Dolls, because those two were really good friends, and they both took lessons from Gene Krupa, and I
Okay.
would say that they were both similar in their drumming styles as well.
Yeah.
So if you listen to those Dolls records, there's a lot of stuff on there that either one of them could have switched positions in the bands, and you wouldn't have known it.
Yeah, it just so yeah, Peter doesn't get the credit that he deserves as a drummer, but when you take his background and then you bring it into a hard rock band, I mean, he made it fit. He made it
Yeah,
work.
yeah,
It just and it works brilliantly. It really, really does.
yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, we didn't understand it when you're 12 years old, you're just listening to the songs,
Yeah, you're
and playing air guitar and all that kind of stuff. But tell me, now that we've gone through a lot of our thoughts, I kind of wanted to go down the track list just a little bit. Like, I don't know, do you have a favorite song on the album?
Um, I would say there's two.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah,
uh,
you're not limited to one.
yeah, no, there's two that have always stood out to me
Yeah.
that I've always loved over and above all the rest of them. That would be Anything for My Baby and Love Her All I Can, because they're so different than what they normally do.
you know, I would say for me, favorite song might be "Come On and Love Me" because it's just such a
Yeah,
good song, and it just if you are not stomping your feet to that song and you're not shaking your hips, something's wrong with you. Um, and it's just such a cool song. I dig the lyrics. I always dug them as a kid.
Yeah.
You know, one of the best lines. She touched her hips and told me that she'd let me. It's like when you're 12, you're like, whoa.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. Exactly.
yeah, but so I love that one, and you brought it up, "Love Her All I Can," so much so, and I didn't appreciate the song until I met Catherine,
Okay.
and when we were getting married, unfortunately, we didn't get to have our church wedding, but the song after we get announced and begin to exit the church was going to be "Love Her All I Can."
Hmm.
Because the lyrics are so great.
Oh yeah.
They're just so great, and it's just such a catchy tune as well.
Yeah, it's just different. I don't know why, but there's just something special about those two songs. They really stuck out to me the first time I heard them, and I like the whole record. The only thing I
Yeah.
don't like is I don't like Rock and Roll All Night. I think it's such an awful version. It's
Tommy, I
like
could kiss you right now.
yes,
I
yeah, it's
agree.
it's it's just like the Cheap Trick album version of I Want You to Want Me.
Right, right,
It's just
right, right.
awful. They were going
Completely.
for something different than what it is.
Yeah, yeah,
You know?
yeah.
And, but other than that, I love the whole record.
I
It's
I
just fun.
I agree. Yeah, it really, really is. Top to bottom, it's a great record, great songs. Worst song on the record, Rock and Roll All Night. Worst
Yeah.
song, worst version of that song. Um, just a great song. Um, like I said, Peter's tribal drumming in that song is awesome. And again, going back to when you're a kid, and the line, she takes off her clothes. I had no idea it was about a prostitute. I had
Well,
no
when
idea
you're
at
a kid,
all.
you don't think that. That's not in your wheelhouse, especially after you've been listening to, the Monkees. Uh,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
exactly. But then you get to uh like Rock Bottom. I mean, tremendous song, and come on, that Ace Frehley intro is absolutely tremendous. And the sad part is, I don't know if it was edited out, but on the Alive version, we get that
Oh,
mini
yeah.
intro.
Yeah. But I love the live version of that song. All those songs on Alive from those first three records, in my opinion, come to life. And I think
Absolutely.
that's where the frustration is for a lot of the Kiss fans that would love to hear live versions of those other songs. But then, in all fairness, some songs just don't work live. And I don't even mean from the aspect of that conversation I was telling you about with Tommy Thayer. It just there's some songs that they translate really well on vinyl and you love them, but they don't necessarily work live. And I don't know why that is, but they just
Nope.
don't.
Right, right. You know, Getaway. I mean, speaking about Peter, he obviously he's underrated as a drummer. He's a tremendous drummer. And well, I guess I could say was because he's, retired now, but
Right.
but tremendous drummer. But he never gets enough credit for his singing ability as well. And he always seemed to do a fabulous job when it was his turn.
Yeah.
You know, the
Yeah. I just think that my understanding, he was just such a malcontent.
it's so
That I
difficult to work with.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's gotta be tough to all be in a boat and you're rowing towards shore and someone's drilling a hole in the bottom of the boat.
yeah,
'Cause that's
yeah,
how it feels, and that's why it ended up the way that it ended up, but,
yeah.
we got that small slice that was amazing, and that's usually what it is with most bands. Most bands don't make it like the Rolling Stones, where they're together for all the years that they've been together. It just doesn't work out. And sometimes the most production you're going to get out of a band is 6 or 7 years. And I think it's also okay to be a fan of a band and not own everything they have or have done. It
Oh,
doesn't make you any more or less of a fan. That's another problem with some of the Kiss fans is that they're just so self-righteous that like, well, if you weren't there in 1974 and you didn't buy the first album when it came out the day it came out, you're not a fan. It's like, well, chances are you didn't either. You're telling everybody.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Because let me see. Last time I looked, you're like 2 years younger than me, so I'm sure you weren't there standing in line buying it the day it came out.
Exactly. And we've always made that argument on our podcast that a casual fan is just as important as a mega fan, and a fan who became you know, part of their music and everything was, in the 80s or 90s is just as valid of a fan as someone who's been there since the 70s.
Absolutely. And I'm gonna steal a line from Mark. He says timeline is everything.
Yeah.
And it all depends on where you jump into the Kiss world or any band, but we're talking about Kiss here because, I mean, for crying out loud, they've been around for 50 years. And now some people didn't come to Kiss until the 80s. Maybe they didn't even, they kind of knew who they were, didn't pay attention, but then there was this thing called MTV. And so they saw the videos on MTV, and that's where they, got in on Kiss. So like the non-makeup era of Kiss, that's their band. And yeah, they might like stuff before that and they might like the stuff after that, but that's like their wheelhouse.
Right. And some people feel that Ace Frehley is their guitar player. Other people think it's Bruce Kulick. And other people think it's Tommy Thayer. I mean, and none of them are wrong. It's just I would think, in thinking about it, I bet you there's maybe a handful of bands that I could think of if I had to really challenge myself, that I could honestly say I bought their first record and were fans of the band since literally the first album. Because especially back in the day before the internet, it's weird. It's like before the internet, it was hard to find new music unless your friends brought it over or you heard it on the radio.
Yeah. Or you were in the record store all the time, like we were.
The record store. Now, you'd think it would be getting easier, but it's harder because there's even more ability to find music online with all these streaming platforms and all of these different services where you can go to find new music, that it's almost harder to find it now because you're inundated with so much new stuff. It's like, how do you figure out what you like and what you don't? And I'd say go back to going to festivals. That's the best thing you can do. If you like heavy metal, for instance, hard rock, whatever, go to a festival, a 3-day festival, like maybe one of Danny Wimmer Presents festivals, like Incarceration or whatever. And you will see so many bands there that if you didn't go, you would never know about. And you might find something new that you're like, holy shit, this is unbelievable. I mean, it's happened to me more times than I can count. I can give you a list of 20 bands right now off the top of my head that if it wasn't for the festivals, I would have never heard of, that I absolutely love.
I'm going to tell you right now. Now, look, as far as a festival is concerned, look, Tommy, we're pushing 60 here, okay? That's an endurance test. So
true.
But I'll tell you about one band I absolutely knew nothing about until I saw them open for Kiss, and it was the Rock the Nation tour, which was one of the best set lists that Kiss has had in, probably since the Hot in the Shade tour. And the band that opened that tour was ZO2. And I knew nothing about ZO2. And I took my son with me, and we're sitting there at Irvine Meadows, and we're looking at Joey's drum kit, and on the kick drum, they got the ZO2 logo. And it, from a distance, it's hard to read it, and he's, what's the name of that band, Dad? I don't know. But I'll tell you what, those guys, they tore it up, and loved them from that minute. And they were selling their debut CD at the merch stand. I went out in between sets, and I bought it. I met the guys. They were fabulous.
Yeah.
And
super nice guys.
Oh, great guys. Paulie was on the show about a year ago.
Oh, nice. Okay.
Absolutely dynamite guy. In fact, I was at his birthday bash like 2 weeks ago at the Whiskey. And so, he's just a great guy. And it's unfortunate that ZO2's kind of I
Yeah.
guess hiatus is the best way to put it,
Well,
but
yeah, well, because he was playing in the suite for a while, and then he's
yes.
been bouncing around, and then Joey's doing stuff with different bands. So yeah, I mean, they'll probably do something in the future, and they lost one of their members, but
Yep.
that's a great example. I mean, if you didn't see them as an opener, you still may not know who they are to this day.
Yeah.
And I know that I agree with you, the endurance piece, but at the same time, with these festivals, there are some that aren't quite as big as others, but you can at least go and hear something different.
Yeah. No, absolutely.
You
Well,
know,
okay. To what you're saying though. Okay. And I'll step back a little bit. I was at a festival, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. I went to Boots in the Park. It's a country music festival.
nice.
And um I think I missed the first two acts because they started at 12:15. So I think I got
Yeah,
there like 2:30. Okay.
yeah,
But
yeah,
I still saw five of the seven bands.
which is awesome.
And the only one that I knew was Brooks and Dunn, who closed the show. That's the only one I knew. The other four previous to them had no idea, and I loved it.
There you go.
I
Do
loved
you
it.
remember who the other four were?
I know one was Parker McCollum.
Yeah, Parker McCollum. He's very
Yeah,
good.
yeah, he was. Oh, he was great.
Yeah,
He reminded me. He reminded me of a country version of Brian Adams.
yeah, yeah. I
Um,
mean, most of those guys want to be rock people.
yeah,
They
and
really do.
who was the guy? I can't remember who was right in front of him, but then who was, oh gosh. I can't
It's
recall,
okay.
but
But
it
the
was
thing
just so good though.
Yeah, and I'm shooting a lot of country western festivals.
Yeah.
And so I'm learning so much more about country western music, and there's some really great acts out there that I really, really enjoy. And you shouldn't be scared to try that too.
When it's real country, when it's down home, good old boy country, guys that were working on the oil fields in Arkansas, 6 months ago, and always wanted to be a musician, that kind of stuff. I love that type of stuff. Heath Sanders, Austin Moody, those kind of guys. I'm not into hip hop with a twang. I don't
Yeah,
have
but that's different. I'm Kane Brown. Yeah, no, I don't even understand that. But
exactly.
like Cole Wetzel, Jelly Roll, um, Parker McCullum, John Party, Pecos and the Rooftops, Whiskey Myers, Ashley McBride. There's a lot of really, really great artists. Then, of course, the greatest country artist of all time ever in the history of country music, Wheeler Walker Jr.
Okay.
Are you
Heard
familiar
of
with
him,
Wheeler?
not familiar with the music.
Do you know who Steel Panther is?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, he's a country western version of Steel Panther, and he is
Gotcha.
freaking awesome. People check
Okay.
him out. He is wonderful.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll
Well,
never be on any big festivals because you couldn't have anyone under the age of 18 there. He's awesome.
is he is he standing on stage with a blow dryer doing his hair and all that kind of stuff too?
No, he's not doing that. But
Okay.
he's thinking about how he wants to have sex with every person in your family, including your father.
I was gonna say, and your mom too.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah,
and
of
your
course.
mom and
Yeah.
grandma. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a depraved deviant, and
Oh, geez. That's why he's your favorite.
exactly.
Come
It's just
on.
because he's like Steel Panther in the respect that you go to the show and it's a comedy routine more than anything else, and you laugh
Yeah.
through the whole thing.
I thought you were gonna give me something like totally serious, like Ronnie Millsap or
No,
something
I
like
am
that.
totally
George
serious.
Strait.
No, I am totally serious. I think he's the greatest
Yeah,
country
well, I thought you
western.
were gonna. Oh,
Oh yeah,
come
no.
on.
I like those guys too. I have Ronnie
Yeah,
Millsap's greatest hits, and I just bought an Alabama record, and I bought
great stuff.
Miranda Lambert, and I bought Shania Twain. I bought all this stuff here just over the last month or so. But Wheeler Walker is just He's next
Well,
level awesomeness.
since you're on depravity and all that stuff, right? I was while I was waiting for you to come in the studio, I was just scrolling through Facebook and I saw some of your posts and the what's on your turntable stuff.
Yeah,
Tommy, I had to take a screenshot. I don't know. Let me see if I can do this.
that's become really popular, and I'm not really sure why.
Well, oh wait, hang on. Let me
Yeah,
get to
it
my photos here. I took a screenshot. I don't. I was like, "Are you got to be kidding me? This is where to go." Uh, no, that's not Tommy. Where's Tommy? I can't. Screw it. Can't find it right now. But I couldn't believe that you were being sponsored by like sex coaches and all kinds of stuff.
I'm not even aware of that.
Yeah, I was like, what? I didn't think you were aware of it, but it was just kind of funny that
Yeah, no,
on
I mean, hey, everybody needs help, I guess.
yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I don't even pay attention to any of that because I don't monetize my feed. I do all of that stuff um to give you value to pay attention because for those of you that don't know, I'm a real estate agent by trade. And so nobody needs a real estate agent unless you're buying or selling a home. I totally
Yeah,
get it. It's no different than anything else. When you need it, it's there for you. But how do I
yeah,
keep people engaged so that when they do need help buying or selling or hear of someone, they'll think of me? Well, that's why I do these things. That's why I do these podcasts. That's why I make the what's on your turntable. And we do a lot of really stupid, goofy shit. Like my friend Kyle and I, we went to Record Store Day in Minneapolis where I live. And so Kyle and I hit like 9 or 10 record stores on Record Store Day. And we just would go in and go, hey, this is South Metro. If you're on the south side of town, down in Burnsville, Lakeville area in Minneapolis, St. Paul, this is a great place to go buy records. They have a great used section, whatever. And then we went to all these, made like 1 minute videos. And like within 24 hours, we had 80,000 views. Just like going to the record store, and I got all these messages from people going, dude, that was so much fun, we followed you all day.
you
I'm
got to
like,
show
oh
me how to
yeah,
get that stuff done.
it's easy, I can show you. But my point is it's like, who would have ever thought? But people
Yeah,
are interested because we're entertaining them, and they're only
yeah,
a minute long. And also too, a lot of people are like, well, great, when I come to Minneapolis now I know where to shop because I'm so into the music thing, just like you are. Most of our friends, or so many of our colleagues and friends, are somehow attached to music in one way or another.
yeah. Well, speaking of doing other things, why don't you tell us some of the things you have going on? You've mentioned podcasts. So let's talk about them. What do you
Okay,
got going on?
where do you want to start?
Well, let's start with your two new ventures in the podcast world.
Okay, I have two new podcasts. The
Yeah.
first one is called Hairball Unscripted. For those of you that don't know who Hairball is, they are a band out of Minneapolis. Michael, the lead guitar player, we've been friends since we were 16. And Hairball is essentially it's not a cover band, although that's what people call it. They go to the extreme because Mike's a Kiss fan
Yeah.
and loves Van Halen, all the stuff we love. So essentially, they play all hair metal songs, and it's usually two, maybe three songs max from a band. So, like if they do Twisted Sister, Dave, one of the three singers, will come out dressed up like Dee Snider,
Yeah.
and they'll do a couple songs. Then he'll leave, and then Chris will come out dressed as Freddie Mercury, and they'll do Queen songs. And they just kind of keep revolving. And now they've got Patrick, so Patrick will then come out and do Guns N' Roses, and they're so good musicianship wise and they nail this stuff. It's freaking perfect.
Yeah.
And so it's an inexpensive ticket. It's not going to cost you $300 to go see them. And the idea behind it is, oh, you don't like Journey? Wait 5 minutes and here's Judas Priest. Oh, you don't like Judas Priest? Wait 5 minutes and here's Kiss. And they're always constantly switching things up. So they have a huge fan base, and they're selling more tickets than national acts. So I would say on average they sell 4 to 5,000 tickets per show.
Whoa.
Yes.
Wow.
but they're only like $35. So people get 2 hours of all the best songs from that genre
Yeah.
with
Yeah.
pyro and lighting and smoke and the whole 9 yards.
Yep.
Even Dave Moody that does Gene, he breathes fire. So I mean,
Yes, I've seen that.
yeah, and so I can't encourage you enough that if you guys are ever get an opportunity, if you like 80s hair metal, look up Hairball. They will probably come to a city near you. So we started one a couple of weeks ago because we've been talking about it for a long time called Hairball Unscripted. And we're doing exactly what you and I are doing here. And each week or every other week, we have a couple of different band members and we just talk about different things. And then we answer fan questions. And so far, I mean, we've only done 2 episodes, but it's off to a really good start. And people seem to really enjoy it. And then the other one is a new one that hasn't debuted yet, and it's called the Hometown Hustle. And
Okay.
I'm going to be interviewing people from the Minneapolis St. Paul area who own businesses, not only to hear their stories, because I think that people's stories are interesting, regardless of whether you're famous or not, and then talk a little bit about their business to help people know that, okay, here's someone who's genuinely the real deal. And if you go to this person, you're going to have a good experience. They're not going to overcharge you. They're going to take good care of you. And that's essentially what it is. So I don't know what's going to happen with that yet. We'll see.
Right on.
Yeah.
Right on. That's and then of course you've got the biggest Kiss podcast in the entire world, Three Sides of the Coin.
Yeah, but that's a big fish in a really small pond. I mean,
there's like a million Kiss. Okay, there's not a million. There's about 100 Kiss podcasts.
is there
So,
that many? Because I
don't
don't
know.
listen to any of them. I mean, I really truly don't. It's something we get together 2 hours per week, and we record this thing, and then I don't think about it again the rest of the week. It's just it's no different than anything else you do in your life, and it's been really rewarding. And the thing that blows my mind the most about it is how many musicians listen, because I can't tell you how many times I've been at a festival and I'm down in the pit photographing a band, and one of the guys keeps looking at me and he's got this weird look on his face, and then about halfway through he looks at me, he's just like Randy Wetzel from In This Moment. He's the guitar player in This Moment. Super nice guy. Great band. In This Moment. Excellent. Yeah. And he kept looking at me. He'd walk away, and he'd look at me, and he'd walk away. And then finally he comes over and he's like, he pulls his sleeve up, and he's got this massive Gene Simmons tattoo. And he's like, and I'm like, and he's like, yes, yes. And that stuff happens all the time. And I'm just blown away by it because there's so much.
Just for the people in my audience, I'm going to tell you guys, check out Three Sides of the Coin. Look, check out all of Tommy's podcasts, especially if you're in the market for a home. But not only that, check out Three Sides of the Coin. They have like 600 episodes. And I mean, you guys have been doing, I think, like 11 years, something like that.
Yeah.
12 years.
11, 12 years now. And we're at like 850 million minutes listened, or I don't know, some insane amount.
It is. It's crazy. But what I was getting to is the guests that these guys have on their show. These guys, man, they pull out all the stops. They've got, it's incredible, the guests that they have. And it's not just the, it's not the people that everybody knows. Okay, it's not only them. You get a lot of the behind the scenes folks as well, and sometimes that's when you get the best stories and the best.
Absolutely. That's why people are, you got to have the band on. Well, we've had band members on, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's wonderful, and we love that they participate. But they're not going to tell us anything that we don't already know. I mean, unless we're lucky and something comes out in that interview. But it's the other people. It's the people around the band and the people behind stage, and to your point, and other musicians who are fans of the band that I think have a tendency to be considerably more interesting. Although I do find it interesting that the band is hyper aware of it, because Paul Stanley listens on a pretty regular basis, because I can tell you there's been more than one time where I'm backstage and he pulls me to the side and lectures me for about 5-10 minutes.
He gives you the business.
Yes, and he's always nice. I mean, all of them are very,
Yeah.
regardless of what you hear, I'm going to tell you, when you get behind the veneer, all of those guys are really kind people. You know, they're truly kind, wonderful people. And they do a lot of charitable stuff and a lot of amazing things that they just never talk about.
Right.
So for all that vibrato with Gene,
he's a teddy bear.
He is. I could make him cry. If you put me in front of him right now, I could make him cry by asking him one specific question. And I've done it to him before.
Yeah.
And they're wonderful people, as well as, Ace Frehley as well. Ace is he's just a super nice person. They're just great people. I'm blessed.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, people in my audience, the guys from Three Sides, they're like buddies with everybody in the music business. Okay. They're best buddies with everybody in the band Kiss. The most recent lineup of the band, plus all the past members of the band too, and some of them have been on the show. Some of them haven't, most of them haven't. Let's put it that way.
Other than Peter hates us.
Well, yeah.
Which is sad because we love Peter. He just
exactly.
The problem with Peter to a certain degree, and even Ace to a lesser degree, is there's a group of sycophants that, like, I'll give you a great example. One of the records that Ace had released a number of years ago, and I don't remember if it was Anomaly or whatever, we did a review of it on the show. And I think I gave it like an 8 out of 10, or maybe even a 9 out of 10. And Mark was very similar. And Michael gave it like a 6 out of 10.
I think that was Anomaly.
Yeah. Okay. And we just got this hate mail from these people who are like, no, you have to give it a 10 out of 10. It's your responsibility to help them sell as many records. I'm like, no, that has nothing to do with, that's not what we do. That's not,
it's your responsibility to give your true opinion and your true review. That is your responsibility.
Yep.
It's not your response. You talked about it earlier. As fans, we don't have to like every single thing that our favorite bands do.
No,
we don't have to, and it's okay to not like every single thing that they do.
No.
And look, you even brought it up too. The band doesn't like everything that they've done as well. So if they don't like everything, then why is it not okay for you to not like everything?
Well, and I think that's where it goes so well for us, because they respect us because we always tell the truth. They may not agree with everything that we say, but we'll never lie to you. We will always tell you the truth, and it's just our truth. Either we like something or we don't. So they don't have a problem with that. There's so many people who think we shill for them and that they pay us and all that.
Oh yeah.
Joke.
Wait a minute.
There's no truth to it. And like I said, if they didn't like us, they wouldn't be nice to us.
So wait a second. You're not collecting checks from Paul and Gene? Come on. I thought that's what's been going on this whole time.
I'm surprised Gene doesn't charge us.
Charge you to mention his name or something like that.
Yeah. And they respect honesty.
Yeah.
Because I think at first they were a little concerned when we first started thinking that it was going to be a TMZ thing, which was never our intention. And in my 12 years of doing this, I can't think of one guest we ever had on, not one, that was ever showed malice towards the band. We don't want dirt. We don't want ex-girlfriends or ex-wives. We want to talk and celebrate the band and the music and because the funny thing is that the Three Sides thing is less a Kiss podcast, in my opinion, and more about us growing up in the 70s and 80s. It's more of that to me than it is actually, because we talk about other stuff, as you know, as well, other bands, music, and all that.
But it all comes right back to Kiss.
Yeah.
It's like all roads lead to Kiss.
Yeah. We have so many friends that's exactly what it is. And we talk about that. And it's like, like Michael from Hairball, we're like, well, pretty much almost every answer to life is contained between the debut album and Creatures. And if you can't get answers to whatever your problems are in those that group of records, you just don't get it, you know, because there's so much that can be learned from what they did. And it's all just fun. That's all it is.
Yeah.
And we've been very blessed. And like I said, I can't even express to you how kind they have been to us. And they don't get any, they don't, it, we're just normal, regular people. That's all it is,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, uh, like you were saying, you're not always just talking about the music. Very similar to, what I'm doing here. We talked about it previously. It's just telling stories. And of course they're all Kiss based story. Most of them are Kiss based
Yeah.
stories,
Yeah.
but it's just telling stories. And I've said it a lot of times, and I'll continue to say it as long as I do this podcast. People like to hear stories.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I try to share as much as I can, but I'm careful to share certain things because then I start getting attacked for bragging about something when in reality that's not what I'm doing. I'm just trying to take the audience along with me on some of these experiences. I remember, and I'll tell everybody this, I was sitting backstage, God knows, who knows where it was, maybe Louisville, Kentucky, it doesn't matter, but I was sitting on a road case with Dr. Mark, and we're just sitting backstage, which we do all the time. And they go walking past. And I look at Mark, I'm like, where the hell are they going? The stage is the other way. And sure as shit, 3 minutes later, here they come walking back again because someone took them the wrong way. So of course, as they're passing by, I'm like, hello, Cleveland. And
Yeah,
Paul got it. He's like, yeah.
yeah.
Well, that shit actually happens, and I'd like to just share it because it's one of those things that most people don't ever get to do.
No, they don't get to see that, you bragger, Tommy. But
Yeah, exactly.
yeah,
It's bizarre. I mean, we would go out on tour, and Mark and I were the only two back there,
I
literally.
admire you guys for what you have been able to do, and just the friendships that you've been able to create within that Kiss family, and of course it's gone way beyond that as well. And
Oh gosh, yes, yeah. I'm
yeah,
I'm uh, I'm flying down to Atlanta next week to celebrate a 60th birthday of a friend of mine. Him and his wife, and his
yeah.
wife is throwing this party, and it was because I met them the same way I met you. We're friends because they're Kiss fans. That's
Yeah.
why I'm going.
Well, again, for my audience, I'll share this. I mentioned it briefly, and then look, you've been so generous with your time, Tommy. I'm going to let you go, but we did meet at the Kiss show in Las Vegas when Kiss was doing their residency in 2014, and I bought tickets to go to the show there. I flew there by myself, and you and Michael were doing a kind of a three sides meet and greet type of thing, or a hang at Kiss Monster Mini Golf right across the street from
Yeah.
the hotel.
Yep. Christine Ritter.
And I went over and just I met you and Michael the night before, walking out of the whatever they called the theater at the time. I think it was the Joint, wasn't it? I think so.
Yeah, it was the old. It's now
Hard
the
Rock,
Virgin.
wasn't it?
It's the old Hard Rock.
Yeah. So that's when I had met you guys, and you're like, "Hey, you gonna come tomorrow?" Yeah, I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow. Okay, great. So we hung out. You had your video camera out there. You were talking to the fans of the podcast,
Yep.
and yeah, doing all kinds of stuff. And Izzy was there, and I mean, I still have a whole slew of photos that we took together.
That's awesome.
And then afterwards, and I always tell you, I use this line a lot with you, Tommy. I said, I don't want to be that guy.
But
But
you're not that guy.
when everything was done and over with, yeah, but you'd only known me for a few hours at that
But
point.
you can tell.
And
You can tell.
and when everything was done and over with, you were like, hey, we're gonna go inside and play some putt putt golf. You want to come? I'm like, Okay, sure. And it was you and Michael
Yeah,
and Izzy and myself who played putt golf inside Monster Mini Golf. We just had a great time.
I remember
And
that.
that, for my audience, look, that's the kind of guy that Tommy Sommers is. That's just the kind of guy that he is. He's very generous, and he's very genuine as well. And
Well, thank you. That's very kind of you to say. And I would say the same thing about you. And it was great because it's like that's the other piece that I think a lot of people don't understand is it's hard to quantify certain things. And I've seen some really weird shit happen at
yeah,
these festivals and backstage. And when you meet people who are genuinely kind people like you're immediately comfortable. You felt like an old friend right away because you handled yourself with grace and you were just kind and fun to be around. And I'm like, well, and we knew you were alone. So I'm like, well, let's have Ben play golf with us. It was fun. We had a great afternoon. It was a lot of fun. We had a lot of laughs, just like we'd known each other for years. And
we
that's
were
what it
cracking
is.
up that whole time, and we were trying to take pictures inside the joint, and it's all you could see was our teeth because it was all the fluorescent lighting in there, or the neon lighting in there, and every picture is just nothing but teeth in there. And it was a good time. I still have the scorecard from yeah.
Yeah, that was fun, and also too, Monster Mini Golf in Vegas is in the Rio, and
Yeah,
Christina and
yeah,
Patrick run it, and they're just the salt of the earth. So if you are even a curious Kiss fan, not only is there a shitload of memorabilia there, but it's a lot of fun to play the Monster Golf. It's an 18-hole Monster Golf in neon. It's a lot of fun. Go visit them if you can. You won't regret it. And
it's a great time. And if anybody's getting married, is Gene Simmons still marrying people there?
Probably, yeah,
Yeah,
I would think so. I know the chapel still exists,
yeah.
and I'm sure they use it. I just haven't seen any photos lately, but that doesn't mean that it's not happening
Yeah, I
because
haven't. I haven't
yeah,
either, but yeah, it's yeah, good stuff. And look, I said it before. I'll always say it. Tommy is just a wonderful guy. He really, truly is. Unfortunately, he's 3 hours this way, and we don't get to see. This is the first time we've seen each. Gosh, I think this is the first time we've actually seen each other since the Kiss Expo in L.A.
yeah, I would say that's probably the last time I physically saw you. Yeah, and that
Yeah,
was 2018, maybe
17.
17. Okay, yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, that was a
that's
fun.
bananas, Tommy.
I know, but that's how
Yeah.
fast life goes. But we
Yeah,
speak on the phone,
we
but
do. We
no, you're
talk on
right.
the phone. We text. I
Yeah.
I try to always remember your birthday when I can.
Thank you.
So
That's very nice of you. And I'm horrible with that, so that's why I'll just say Happy Thanksgiving.
yeah. There you
That
go.
I remember.
Listen. All right. Socials. Where can people find you besides your podcasts?
Oh, you can find me on mostly. I spend most of my time on Instagram and Facebook.
Yeah.
Tommy Sommers, Sommers. Please follow me. I would love it, and check in, and I'd love to chat with you. And as far as the real estate stuff goes, I do a lot of blogging. So,
Yeah.
for any of you that maybe are in California or wherever you are in the world, especially in this country at least, in
Yeah.
this country, if you're ever stuck and um, you have questions, just look up my YouTube page, Realtor Tom Sommers Realtor, and there's a ton of stuff there, content for you for free that will help you. They'll answer quick questions. And then I also offer a service to people that if you, let's say you're in West Virginia and you don't have a real estate agent, but you need one and you want to buy or sell a house, I will do the research for you free of charge and help you find an agent
That's what I'm telling you,
so
people.
that
You
you
see?
don't end up getting, and don't get me wrong, we've got a lot of wonderful people in my business, but there's a lot of people that are not very good. It's that old 80-20 rule. And
Right.
I think when you're dealing with the largest asset most people have in their lives, you can't hire someone who is nonchalant about it. You have to hire people who really care to take care of you.
Yeah.
So there
And
you go.
and last thing, Tommy is like a master photographer. And if you follow Tommy on Facebook or Instagram, he's constantly taking photos at shows, and it'll take him a few days after the show to go through them and edit and that type of
Yeah.
thing. But man, the stuff that he's putting out, look, people, it's top notch,
Well,
top
that's very
notch
nice
stuff.
of you to say, and it's a work in progress. I'm getting better. I
Please,
was really shitty
please.
when I first started. I was really bad. But thanks to people like Kiss and
Yeah,
Hairball and
yeah,
these other bands who let me come and photograph, because that's being a photographer at festivals and going on tour and shooting all those Kiss shows, and that taught me so much. And also too, I can't do it without saying a huge thank you to my friend Kyle Hansen. Kyle is a brilliant photographer, so look up RKH Images.
hmm
Kyle's amazing too. He really is. He's taught me oh so much, and now we teach each other stuff. He's the one that I do all this stupid shit with, and when we go
yeah,
to shores and
yeah.
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he still thinks that the track listing on the back of Love Gun is a male appendage.
No, that's Will.
That's Will. Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
no,
that's
that's
right.
Will.
That's
Yeah,
right. That's Will.
that's one of my biggest regrets in my life is that I took him backstage to meet them, and that wasn't the regret. The regret was he got into it with Gene, and they had like a 5 minute conversation, and he's arguing with Gene that the way the songs are on the back of the Love Gun album looks like a dick.
Yeah,
And he made some and had them cut out in the shape of it. He's like showing them to Gene, and Gene's like, no, I don't think. And he was like, take pictures, and I did. But what I realized after the whole thing was that it was comedy gold, and I missed all of it. I should have been videotaping it,
yeah.
you know,
Exactly.
because even after the whole thing, he walks away, and Paul heard the whole thing, and Paul's like, did you bring him here? Like, I said, I sure did. And I said specifically to talk to Gene about this. He's like, that's funny.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
anytime he can get a dig in, he's all for it.
well, look, um, we were,
Way
this
over.
album right here turned 50 the other day, and we were talking about it, and we spent more time talking about everything else, but it's still a great album. We still love it.
Yep.
And we did get in our stuff regarding Dress to Kill. So
Yeah.
it's in there somewhere, people. But
Mm-hmm.
there was a lot of good conversation here that I hope you stick around from beginning to end. And Tommy, I just honestly, I know you're a very, very busy guy. So for you to be able to carve out, I don't know, I think we're coming up on 1:45 right now. So for you to be able to carve out this amount of time for me, I so appreciate it. I cannot say thank you enough.
I'm happy to do it. I told you, anytime you need me, I'm always here to help you if I can.
Well, you're going to be you're going to be without some co-hosts in a week or two. So if you need somebody to, fill a
Okay.
chair,
But what's going
just
on in a couple of weeks? Are they both going somewhere?
Mark's out of town, Michael's out of town, Lisa's
Oh,
out of town.
oh, so we can actually make a good one. We can make a
Yeah.
good episode with none of them.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Come on.
Yeah.
We
Remind me.
could.
That would be fun. We could do that. You
Yeah.
know, maybe get Izzy Presley on too.
Oh,
You know,
Izzy probably wouldn't even remember me, but whatever. I don't care.
doesn't matter. He's self-deprecating. You just put a quarter in him and let him go.
Yeah, yeah.
You
He's
know,
great.
yeah.
He's
Yeah, I've
great.
never met anybody that could go into D. He should write a book about how to be in the friend zone with every woman he meets.
Oh, geez,
You know,
Louise. Well, when you make videotapes of eating steaks in a restaurant and potatoes, come
well,
on. What are you
and
gonna do?
Andy Biersack of Blackfield Brides, he's like, I watch every episode. He's like, it's so disturbing. I can't look away. Like, yep, that's our Izzy. Yeah,
That's
so check out Izzy
Izzy.
Presley too, because Izzy Presley, Izzy Presley, as in
As in
Elvis.
Elvis.
He's really freaking funny. He is self-deprecating, and check him out on socials.
And he does like he's like on every Monsters of Rock cruise and
Oh yeah,
all
you
these
know
other
the
events and stuff. And he does karaoke DJ. He does some stand up, I believe. And he's
yeah.
a funny
Check him
guy.
out. He's a good dude, and he's really funny.
He's and very, very knowledgeable.
Very much so. Yes.
Yeah,
Very.
it doesn't come off that way, but he is. But he
Yeah,
really is.
because that's his kind of his
I think
shit.
that's his thing. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
But anyways, again, Tommy, this has actually been a blast. It really, truly is.
I
And
enjoyed it. It's a lot of fun.
it's kind of like when we get on the phone and we talk, we'll go for an hour, hour and a half. And so this is even better because everybody gets to see it too. So
Yeah, well, hopefully
uh,
people enjoy it. That's all I can say.
well, I certainly hope so. I'm going to close up shop, but hang out
Sure.
with me. Okay. Hang out with me for a couple minutes. All right. So everybody, that's a wrap. Again, as you know, this program is available wherever you get your podcast. Just search the Ben Maynard program. It's right there. Bam, go with it. If you've enjoyed this because of this guy right here and not so much this guy here, then yeah, I know it's like, then thanks for watching on YouTube, but you have to subscribe to the channel. Okay, please subscribe to the channel. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment. All right. Last but not least, follow me on Instagram, and even better than following me on Instagram, which is Ben Maynard Program. You know what? Follow me on Facebook instead, because I spend more time on Facebook. I don't even go. Catherine runs Instagram, and I don't, whatever. So it's easier on Facebook. So hit me up on Facebook, okay? So there you go. All right. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being here. As always, this is the Ben Maynard Program. Tell a friend.